Welcome back to the Midnight Narrator, where the familiar comfort of our neighborhoods can be shattered by the intrusion of the unsettling, and the games of childhood can take a sinister turn. Tonight, we delve into a chilling tale that begins with a peculiar figure appearing in a local play area, a seemingly innocent object that slowly unravels into a terrifying nightmare. Prepare to confront the insidious nature of fear as a mother's unease curdles into a desperate fight to protect her child from something inexplicable and deeply wrong. Join me as we try to make sense of the mounting horror in Time Out. Turn down the lights, listen closely, and remember that sometimes the most innocent facades can conceal the most terrifying intentions. It started roughly a week ago. Just a week. It felt like an eternity now. A week of mounting unease that had curdled into icy terror. Someone had placed a peculiar, child-sized figure at our neighborhood play area. These time-out figures, as I later learned they were called, were unsettling things. Roughly human scale, sculpted to resemble children in punishment or, well, not quite playing, but engaged in a game of forced stillness, of concealment. They were always face first against something. Walls, trees, play equipment. Faces hidden by their hands. You only ever saw their backs. Crude things, often handmade, using old children's clothes. A sun hat, a wig-like hairpiece, stuffed with straw or something similar. The first time I saw it at the play area, my immediate thought, sharp and instinctive, was child. A real child. My 5-year-old Ryan shared that initial, innocent misinterpretation. He actually walked right up to the form and asked, "Care to play hide-and-seek?" It remained utterly, unnervingly motionless. From the bench, watching, a prickle of unease started at the nape of my neck and spread outwards. Why wasn't this child moving? He, or possibly she, it was hard to tell the gender from the moderately long, fair hair spilling from under a sun hat, was leaning against the green plastic play tunnel Ryan loved. Just standing there utterly, disturbingly still. But then, closer, the unnatural plastic sheen of the fair coiled hair became apparent, the too white starkness of the neck above the shirt collar. I reached out, hesitant, and cautiously nudged it. It swayed against the tunnel, stiff and lifeless. It's a fabricated figure. A wave of discomfort washed over me, followed by a strange, illogical irritation. Was this meant to be whimsical? No. It was unsettling, bordering on macabre. It felt like something a grandparent in their 80s might conceive, the kind who collected porcelain dolls with vacant eyes and eerily lifelike baby dolls. Or perhaps it was a prank. Teenagers. I could picture a group of bored, cruel adolescents leaving it there, specifically to frighten mothers. Maybe they were lurking nearby, phones out, recording reactions for social media. Some twisted internet joke. Regardless of the intent, it landed wrong. Terribly wrong. Just standing there, completely immobile, leaning against the tunnel like that. Its head was positioned perfectly with one of the round openings in the tunnel wall, as if it were peering inside. "What is it?" Ryan asked, his gaze fixed, unblinking. "It's a figure. They call them time-out figures because they mimic the pose of being in time out," I explained, forcing a lightness I didn't feel. "Oh." He considered this, then lowered himself, and before I could stop him, crawled into the tunnel. "Ryan." My voice sharpened with sudden anxiety. "Hello," he called out, his voice echoing strangely within the plastic. "Want to engage in play?" "Come out of there." My stomach tightened, a cold knot forming. "It has no facial features. Why is its face absent? Come out now," I insisted, the unease in my stomach twisting into something sharper. He eventually emerged, beaming, oblivious to the tremor in my voice. "Can we construct sand structures?" "Of course," I conceded, relief flooding me. I hated sand structures, the gritty invasion of sand into every crevice of my clothing. Yet it was infinitely preferable to dealing with that thing. A few days later we returned to the play area, and it was still there. Still. The after-school rush of children were present, swarming the climbing frame, shrieking down the slides with joyous abandon. But amidst the vibrant, noisy chaos, one entity remained disturbingly, unnaturally motionless. That ridiculous figure. Same place as before, leaning against the tunnel. Had it not moved in days? A fresh wave of unease washed over me. I turned abruptly, half expecting to catch a glimpse of snickering teenagers filming us. But there were only the usual drained, distracted parents, faces buried in their phones, and the whirlwind of energetic children. I pulled out my own phone, seeking refuge in news articles. Distraction. I scrolled mindlessly. When I glanced up moments later, the figure had shifted. It was no longer by the tunnel. It was now leaning against the slide, face pressed into the green plastic. My spirits plummeted. One of the children must have moved it, I reasoned. But the playground was full and no one seemed to have noticed. The logic felt flimsy even to myself. I scanned the area, taking in the noisy, active children. Surely. I gestured to Ryan, poised at the top of the slide, and forced myself to put my phone away. Constant vigilance. I would keep him in my sight. He waved back, grinning, his bright yellow sun hat a beacon in the crowd. But distractions are insidious. Constant temptations pulling us away from what truly matters. Unpaid bills, unanswered emails. Always something clawing for our attention. And on this day, it was a business call, insistent and urgent. As I spoke to my client, fielding questions about logo variations and branding guidelines, my gaze drifted against my will from the play area. Just for a moment. And when I looked back, Ryan was gone. Panic, sharp and cold, pierced through me. I dropped my phone, the screen cracking on the hard ground, and stood, heart hammering against my ribs. Ryan! Silence. Only the joyous shrieks of other children. I rounded the perimeter of the play structure, my breath catching in my throat, and then a flash of yellow. His yellow hat, not on Ryan's head, but perched atop that unsettling figure. It was now positioned against the climbing wall, hands concealing its face, shirt fluttering gently in the cool breeze, fair artificial curls peeking from beneath my son's vibrant yellow hat. A wave of cold dread wasn't just a feeling. It was a physical wave that crashed over me, stealing my breath. My heart slammed against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. This was profoundly wrong. I opened my mouth to scream for Ryan. We exchanged headwear. I spun around, relief so sudden and intense it almost buckled my knees. Ryan stood there, completely unharmed, wearing the figure's ridiculous sun hat. I released a shaky breath, my legs weakening, and sank to the ground. Thank goodness you are all right, I managed, my voice trembling, pulling him into a tight, desperate embrace. I'm fine, he responded, perplexed by my sudden distress. Can we utilize the swings? Yes, anything. Relief still shaking me. But first, let's swap your hats back. Barely glancing at the disturbing figure, I reached over and snatched the yellow hat. Return its hat, I instructed, my voice still unsteady, and we walked quickly towards the swings. I stayed there for a long time, just pushing him gently, willing the tension to bleed away, trying to appreciate the sunny, though cool, spring day. Ryan was safe, and for a while, normalcy flickered back into being. Eventually, as dusk approached, we walked towards the parking lot, a fragile peace settling over us. As I mentally planned dinner, root vegetables to chop, had I remembered cream. Ryan tugged on my sleeve, pulling me back to reality, back to the encroaching dread. Why is it situated there? No. The figure. It was now at the edge of the parking area, leaning against a tree, stark and impossible against the backdrop of parked cars and lengthening shadows. One of the children must have moved it out here, I said, the lie flimsy even to my own ears. Why? They likely thought it was amusing. Come now, let's depart. My voice was sharper than intended, urgency lacing my words. We practically ran to the car and drove home in silence. That evening, I made a decision. We would go to a different play area for a while. The figure was unsettling me too much. Irrational, yes, but the anxiety was a constant gnawing thing, and there was no need to go back to that specific playground. Edgewood tomorrow. Edgewood would be fine. Putting Ryan's hat away, I noticed strands of fair, coiled hair clinging to the inside lining. More than a few strands. It was like something unclean, tainted. A wave of nausea, hot and sudden, rose in my throat. I wanted to scrub my hands, scrub the hat, scrub away the feeling of contamination. I extracted them with a shudder and tossed them into the trash. Then I sat down, trying to settle myself with a warm drink, willing my pulse to slow. Just as I was beginning to unwind, a fragile tendril of peace, Ryan's voice, sharp and laced with panic, sliced through it from upstairs. "Mom!" I dropped my mug, the warm liquid splashing forgotten, and hurried upstairs, heart leaping into panicked overdrive. "Mom! Mom!" he continued to shout, fear a raw, palpable thing in his voice. I rushed into his room, my breath catching in my chest. Ryan was huddled in the corner of his bed, covers pulled up to his neck, eyes wide and terrified. "It's within my closet," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "What is in your closet?" I questioned, dread surging through me, cold and heavy. The figure. No, this had to be a nightmare, a waking nightmare. I moved towards the closet, each step heavy with foreboding. The door was slightly ajar, darkness spilling out from within. It couldn't be just a nightmare. But the dread was too real, too visceral. I took a deep, shuddering breath and forced myself to yank the door fully open. No, it wasn't a bad dream. There, in the dimness, stood the time-out figure. Leaning against the hanging clothes, face pressed into Ryan's brightly colored shirts. Its fair curls gleamed faintly in the weak light, a sinister halo in the shadows. Panic erupted. I snatched Ryan from the bed, lifting him almost bodily. "We are leaving," I stated, my voice tight with fear, and hurried out of the room, towards the stairs, towards escape. It wasn't a cursed figure. Those aren't real. This is someone doing this. Mark. It had to be Mark. Some twisted, perverse revenge for the house. For everything. My blood ran cold. Had he kept a key? Had he been inside, in my house, watching? I dashed down the stairs, Ryan bouncing against me with each stride, reaching the landing, a desperate, involuntary glance back. No, 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 no. The word screamed silently in my head. My legs felt like lead, fear lending a desperate, frantic strength. It was at the summit of the staircase now. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. I sprinted to the front door, fumbling for the doorknob, wrenching it open, pulled it wide, looked back, one last time, into the gaping maw of the hallway. The figure was on the landing. And was that a shadow beside it? Not just the figure. Someone standing there. A fleeting impression, gone in an instant. I fled across the front lawn, towards the neighbor's house, a desperate, gasping sob tearing from my throat. I pounded on their door, weeping, almost incoherent. "Let me in. Someone has invaded our home, please." Taking one last terrified look back at our house, I saw it, leaning against the old oak tree in our front yard, a silent, menacing sentinel in the gathering dusk. The police came, searched, found nothing. No figure, no sign of forced entry. Useless. With no leads, they left, promising to contact me if they made contact with Mark. Empty words. Ryan and I are staying at a friend's house, temporary refugees while we try to breathe again, to regain some semblance of composure, to try and make sense of the senseless. But there is no sense to be made, and I am terrified. Because last night, a fresh wave of icy dread. When I went to check on Ryan to see if he was finally asleep, I found an unoccupied bed. My breath hitched in my throat. Where Ryan was standing in the corner of the room, leaning against the wall, hands over his face. "What are you doing?" I murmured, my voice barely a whisper, gently reaching for his arm, pulling him towards me. "Return to bed." Instantly. He turned towards me, hands still pressed tightly against his eyes, unseeing. His voice was small, innocent, but each word landed like a shard of ice in my soul. "He is not being punished, Mommy," he uttered. I froze. The blood seemed to drain from my face, leaving me cold and clammy. "What?" My voice was a bare whisper, barely audible. "He is engaging in hide and seek," he continued, Now he is concealed, and it is my turn to seek. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspeakable meaning. A cold, paralyzing terror gripped me, stealing my breath and logic. This wasn't just unsettling. This was something beyond comprehension, something utterly, irrevocably wrong. And there we conclude our deeply disturbing journey into Time Out, a story that leaves us with a profound sense of unease and the chilling realization that some threats defy explanation. What was the nature of the Time Out figure? Who or what was behind its unsettling appearances? And what has truly happened to Ryan? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If this tale has left you with a lingering sense of dread and a newfound fear of the playground, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and activate the notification bell to join us on future journeys into the darkness. This is the Midnight Narrator signing off. Until next time, remember, sometimes the game never truly ends.